This is Ken from Ken's Place on eBay, and I'm here again today to show you another machine that the customer was told that they couldn't fix it. Okay, I have up another certificate that I obtained before our business went out, and this is for the Creative Vision, and I went to Ohio to get that certificate. Okay, so I finished the training and all. Today we're going to talk a little bit about motors, because I've got a email sent to me from a customer who had a motor, and basically the motor in her machine got stuck. So she unwedged it and she got it running again, but she asked me what to do with the machine. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the motor. Okay, let's get started. Let's get this certificate out of the way. Here. Okay. Now I'll get my little pointer. Alright. This is the bushing that's inside the motor. Just one of them. The other one is over here. Okay. On this side. Okay. If you look at the bushing, it's a brass bushing, and it has a little black retainer ring around it. And usually you can't take those out. If you try to take them out, they'll bend the wrong way, and then you won't be able to get them back in, and you really can't get a hold of these anymore. Okay, I don't know of anybody that has those retainer clips if they get busted. So that's that. I mean, the one things that I do is I clean out these bushings, and I just make them smooth and all, and oil them up and go from there. This is the armature of the motor, and when the bushing sits inside, okay, it rubs on the shaft here, and it makes little score marks. So those have to be cleaned off, and this has to be polished up some, and it's on both sides because there's two bushings that sit in there. The other thing that I do is, see the score marks on here? These are caused by the carbon brushes. Sometimes the carbon brushes have a little bit of hard material inside of them, and they make score marks. So I resurface this back down so that it's shiny and all. It's kind of like when you have your disc brakes on your car and you get the little grooves in the disc brakes. Well, they have to be resurfaced so that you have the best stopping power. Well, it also applies to the commutators. You have to smooth them down so that the carbon brushes sit on them and they get the full amount of the electricity. Okay. Now I'll show you a motor. I had this motor in one of the other videos, but I found out after I cleaned it up. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see this gouge mark. Okay, usually caused by when you try to push the motor's jammed, you know, whether it's by the needle being stuck in the material or something, or just that the machine is starting to lock up. Well, it creates an arcing effect, and it takes away material from the commutator. So it creates this little gouge mark in there. That becomes a problem. Okay, this armature, if I might be able to get somebody to replace these couple of things, and these couple of contacts here, and the armature might be perfectly good after that, or I might have to replace the whole commutator, and then the armature would be good after that. So we'll see. I don't know which way I'm going to go with it for now. Okay. Now when you have, if you look inside, whoa, have to zoom back out here. If you look inside the motor, okay, it's pretty dark, but you get a lot of buildup of the carbon dust, okay, and that's this black stuff that's on here, and it gets pretty greasy and stuff, and it just sticks. It's kind of like the toner in your laser printers, similar substance basically, as far as consistency. It sticks to everything, and it builds up into the motor, and it can get on to the bushings, inside the bushings and all, and cause the motor to seize up. So that has to be taken care of. When I take apart a motor, I'll clean all that out and make sure that any little things, like if you can see there's rust here. Okay, I'll clean that down and I'll put a little bit of lacquer on there so that the motor doesn't rust anymore. I'll tape up little wires and stuff so that they don't arc out or anything or cause a short. These other parts here are parts of the motor. Okay, you have the two screws that hold the motor together. You have these guys. These are shims, and they're very important to be in the motor because the motor is shimmed so that it stays in the proper spot for the commutator. And you have also the little clips. I lost mine. It pinged off when I was taking the motor apart, so I'll have to find that later. This is the little pin that goes into the end. If you see here, this little hole. And basically, it's what's inside this piece. Alright, this is your sprocket assembly that turns your drive belt. Okay, so that little pin turns the whole thing. Alright, now we'll go over to the other parts. We'll go to Becky's machine. This is Becky's machine, and she brought her machine in to be serviced, and she was having problems. It was locking up big time because when I got it, it was almost totally locked up. But when she brought it in for service, they told her that the machine was not repairable and that they didn't make parts for it anymore. So she dropped me an email, and I told her to send the machine to me. And she did, and I had to free it up. There was a lot of stuff that I had to do with this machine to get it working properly again, and it took me a while because I had to order parts and all after I had worked on it for some time. And I'll show you the parts here. Okay, this is the positioning finger, and even though it looks okay, it's worn, and it was also a little bit bent, so it caused a lot of problems with pulling on the bottom of the material, tension problems and all. So that's one of the things I had to replace. The other piece is this take-up spring. Okay, and on the machine, it sits right here. This is your take-up spring, and you can see the thread goes through it. Okay, so one of the problems with this take-up spring is that it cut a little groove in it right there on the end of the spring where the thread travels. And that had to be replaced because it's going to cut straight through the spring, and then you won't have a spring there to take up the thread. The other thing is this, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. I'll try to zoom in on this. This is the pin. Okay, you can see on this end where it's been chewed up. Okay, the other side is okay, but this end was chewed up. The flakes of metal and stuff that came off of this got jammed inside the gearing system, and that's one of the reasons why it started to lock up. I'll show you on my demo hook. This is a hook out of the 1222. As you can see, it's got the big knob on it and stuff for the plate. It doesn't have all the screws. It only has one screw holding it. But that pin sits right in that little hole. Now, where this fits inside the machine, it sits inside the gear that drives it. Okay, so when it's sheared it off, now the gear's getting jammed. Okay, and that was one of the other reasons why it started locking up. Plus, this on Becky's machine, where this basket is, okay, after a period of times, these baskets do start to wear, and these are made from a centering bearing process. And basically what that is it's porous metals that are put together under pressure to form the piece, and they're usually maintenance free, but if you clean them out, you can't use any types of chemicals. You can't use alcohol, gasoline, kerosene, or any type of chemicals on these hooks, because what it'll do is it'll close up the pores in that metal, and then you won't have any lubrication effect anymore, and it'll start to bind and all. The other things that happen to these hooks is they do wear. I've seen it where they started to wear off the chrome on the inside of it, and once that starts to happen, it creates drag on the positioning finger, and when your thread tries to go through this section, you'll get drag, and that's where you're getting your pinging and stuff from. And it's just best you lubricate it with the Pfaff oil, or if you find something that's really good, some of the ladies they've tried other things, as long as it's a lubricating oil, you can go and keep using it. It'll just sound loud, but it'll do a really good stitch on it for you. Okay, now we'll get to Becky's machine. Give me a minute and I'll